Sky News has learned that Donald Trump's controversial state visit to Britain will go ahead, but not until next year now. Theresa May extended an invitation from the Queen to the US President when she travelled to Washington in January. But controversies surrounding the visit means that it was postponed. But with Brexit now looming large and Britain in need of powerful friends, should the state visit go ahead? Joined by Roshnarie Ali, Labour MP for Bethnal Green and Bow, and a member of the Stop Trump coalition. And we're also joined, as you can see, by Conservative MP and arch-Brexiteer Sir Bill Cash. Hello to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. Roshnarie, first of all, to you, why should he not come?
Hello. Well, I think it should be an official visit, not a state visit, because there's obviously a long-held relationship with the US. But I think Theresa May's called this wrong by insisting on making a state visit. This would be bad for the reputation of the United Kingdom and especially the monarchy's reputation. And we shouldn't drag the Queen into the controversies surrounding Donald Trump.
Bill Cash?
Well, I disagree entirely. The fact is that this is an incredibly important visit. It's been extended by the Queen already, the invitation. He is the President of the United States, our closest ally, and we must not forget the historic legacy of the United States and the United Kingdom in several last 100 years of conflict. We have a very, very strong, deep relationship with them, and I think a state visit is entirely appropriate, and I think it would be a great mistake to try to downplay it. It would send out an incredibly bad message.
Roshnarie, we need friends where we can find them at the moment, don't we? If he wants to do a trade deal with us, we need to embrace that with both hands.
We also need to stand up for our values. This is a man who has instituted a ban on Muslims. He's made anti-Semitic remarks as well as misogynistic remarks. And he has just pulled out of the climate change agreement that was signed by 119 countries, which would protect our planet. So I believe that an official visit would suffice. And frankly, Sir Bill should, as a Knight of the Realms, be standing up for the Queen and the reputation of our monarchy.
So there's Sir Bill.
I am indeed, because it's the Queen who extended the invitation in the first place. And it would be regarded, I think, as extremely disobliging and disrespectful to the Queen to downgrade an invitation that she's already given. But actually, on the substance of the issues that we've just heard from Roshnarie about the Paris Climate Agreement, where we've just had the G20, some people, not all by any means, were beginning to move somewhat towards Donald Trump's position during the course of those discussions, and the communiqué actually did say that the United States was in the process of adjusting some of its positions. So for practical purposes, I don't think for 1 minute that the fact that he, in the very distant past, has made a number of remarks, which I can recall from the election period itself. He is now the President of the United States, and I think he is our strongest ally in terms of our relationship internationally. We have enormous defence commitments with them. He also, as you quite rightly said just now, is also going to contribute to helping us with the trade deal in the Brexit context. And I simply don't understand why it is that people should think that when the Queen has extended an invitation, it's been deferred, but it's going to take place next year, and I'm very glad the government has decided that they're going to go ahead.
Roshnarie?
Well, actually, it was Theresa May who rushed into extending this visit, and many have raised concerns about that. So I think it's disingenuous to put it the way Sir Bill has done. And it doesn't, as I said, it's perfectly adequate to have a government-to-government official visit to discuss areas of mutual interest between our two countries, and we have very strong relationships, notwithstanding the position of the current president. And we should continue to build on that and forge the partnerships that we need in order to, I hope, bring the US back to joining the climate agreement and getting a trade deal. But it doesn't have to be done at the cost of damaging our reputation around the world, and particularly as the Queen is the head of the Commonwealth as well. Just think about the message that sends, that this man gets the state visit and all that goes with it when he goes around attacking communities and being hateful in his rhetoric, which has consequences both internationally and here in our country and across Europe.
So, Bill, his views on women and his Muslim ban, whatever you want to call it, it's basically that, are not in step with the views of the British people.
Well, I hear what Jasnara says. I simply say this, that actually the Supreme Court has just made a ruling in the context of that ban, and he's been partially, if not likely to be completely successful on it. And I would just make a point, which is this.
We don't know that yet. That's making a judgment before the courts have, so you don't know.
No, we have every indication that that is the case. But anyway, having said that, you know, there are a lot of people who have had state visits who one would quite honestly really object to in the past. I can think of Ceausescu, and I can think of several others. And may I say that this is something way beyond the way in which this whole agitation against it is being conducted, beyond good relations with our most powerful and our greatest ally, our special relationship, and all the things I mentioned before, when they've worked with us so well in standing up for values, standing up for democracy, standing up for against tyranny. And America is a wonderful, great country, and I think we want to work very closely with them. He is the president, and I'm very much in favour of him coming over in line with the Queen's invitation.
OK. Given we're talking about inappropriate language just at the moment, Sibyl, what about this Anne-Marie Morris nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, I said that I was not at all happy at the statement that was made, and she has apologised completely. I entirely agree with the fact that she's made this unreserved apology, and I think it was highly regrettable that it was ever made. And as far as I'm concerned, she's made the apology, she's been suspended, and that is the way things stand at the moment, and I quite understand that that is the way it should have been. OK,
you say that now, but you didn't say much at the time. Let's have a quick listen.
To the would pile the keys in 2 years. What happened? There is no deal.
You were there, Sibyl. Why didn't you say something at the time to say it was completely inappropriate?
I sort of half heard it because she was talking quite quickly, and I thought I heard what she said, but I wasn't absolutely certain. And in fact, some of the other people who were there, she must have been talking quite quickly because they didn't hear it either. And we had a question and answer session that took place afterwards, and there were journalists there, and nobody raised the question then either.
Given that you thought you'd heard what she said, why didn't you challenge her on it? Why didn't you ask her, what did you just say?
Well, I just told you. I said I half heard what she said. I wasn't quite sure.
That you thought that she might have said that. It is a word and a phrase that is completely, totally unacceptable in modern parlance or at any time. You thought you heard her say it, and you did nothing about it.
No, I'm sorry. I did say when I was asked that I did not agree with it. I was unhappy about it, and I stand by that, and I'm extremely glad that she's made an unreserved apology. That was the right thing to do, and in the circumstances she's been suspended, and all I can say is I think it was a deeply regrettable statement made at the time.
Why didn't you challenge her at the time?
Well, I've just said, she was speaking very quickly, and other people who were there on the platform with me actually didn't hear it. So it was a question of whether or not one...
You did hear it. You said you half heard it. So why didn't you challenge her and say, what did you just say?
Well, I've said already that I was deeply concerned about the fact, and I said afterwards that as far as I was concerned, it was a completely inappropriate comment. I wasn't happy with it, and she's been suspended as a result.
So why didn't you say that at the time? Why didn't you say this is completely inappropriate? Don't say that. What did you just say? Did you actually say that? That is totally unacceptable. Retract it immediately.
I have said what I've just said, and I said it when I was asked about it, and as a matter of fact, as I said, there were other people in the
Bill,
room.
Why didn't you say it at the time? You condoned what she said. You basically condoned what she said.
I certainly did not condone what she said, and I don't condone it, and I thought it was unacceptable, and that is the position as I see it.
Roshnaro, do you have a view on that?
Well, I think it's utterly disgraceful that in the 21st century an elected representative can make comments like that. And it is a common thing increasingly that people in our society tolerate this kind of behaviour. I'm glad that Sir Bill has made the remarks subsequently, as he did, but I think we all have a responsibility to call out racism and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and misogyny in our country, and that includes the likes of Donald Trump. And that's why I feel so strongly that Sir Bill and others should call out that kind of behaviour, because actually it's bad for our society, and it's bad for the Conservative Party when people like this Member of Parliament and others are trying to damage the reputation of political parties by being racist, and that kind of behaviour is not acceptable and should not be acceptable, and we've got to get away from that, and we've got to make sure that we don't allow racism and hatred to seep into our mainstream political discourse, which is what's happening.
Okay, so Bill, right of reply, very finally.
Yes, I mean, I don't disagree with what Roshnaro has just said in those general terms, and people who know my activities in relation to international development, the International Development Gender Equality Act, which I brought forward, and all those sort of things. I've dedicated a great portion of my political life to fighting against prejudice, fighting against racism and things of that kind, and my own record speaks for itself.
Good to talk to both of you. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this afternoon.